We are running an organization called the Endangered Languages Association of Namibia. Now, the organization was formed 3 years ago when we discovered that most of the Namibian languages are not developed in tandem with the English language. Because the English language developed, new terminologies are formed, and the Namibian languages are still where they were approximately 20 to 30 years ago. So what we have done is we have set ourselves certain specific objectives that the indigenous languages need to be documented and preserved. Because once you lose a language and you lose culture also. So this was one of the reasons why we have formed the Endangered Languages Association. And in this age of modernity, where we have issues of globalization, English is uh, taking over most of the languages, and you will see the new words that are formed in the indigenous languages. Those new words are mostly having some English undertones. Like for example, it is getting anglicized. Let's say the indigenous languages are anglicized.
Thank you for that overview, Mr. Matsuib. Now, to your
Yes.
knowledge, which indigenous languages would you say are more at risk, and why do you think this is the case, especially in the Namibian context?
We are using what we call the UNESCO classification of endangerment of languages. Now, UNESCO has got 6 categories according to which languages are endangered. The first category is what we call safe. Now, a safe language is a language which is spoken by the young and the old people. It's also being conversed on outside the household. That's a language that is safe. And then we have got a language that is severely endangered,
Mm-hmm.
and then we have those that are critically endangered, and then we have those that are vulnerable.
Yeah.
Now, a vulnerable language, let's say for example, is a language that is spoken by the people in the household, but the language is spoken by the people in the household, is spoken by the people in the household, but when the people are going out of the household,
Mm-hmm.
they converse in a different language. They speak the language with the parents. The parents teach their language. That's a vulnerable one. Now then we have got those two that are critically and severely endangered.
Yeah.
Now the ones that are severely endangered is the one that only the people speak in the household. And when they go out of the household, they do not speak the language. They converse in English. And that's the stage where most of the Namibian languages are in.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in Namibia, we have got 2 critically endangered languages. Those two are the Kwetam, the Kwesan language, which is spoken in the Wapwata National Park area, the Kwe language, and then we have got the Haingom. The Haingoms, they have, for some reason, abandoned their language and they are speaking Kwe mostly.
Mm.
So those are the most endangered languages that we have.
Okay.
So these are according to the category. Currently, the ones that are critically endangered, those are the languages that are at the brink of extinction.
Mm-hmm.
And these languages that are at the brink of extinction are those 2 languages. Now, the reason why we have formed the Endangered Languages Association is that for all the Namibian languages, and this includes the Oshindonga, which is spoken by approximately 49% of the population. Most of the let's say Avango dialects,
Mm.
49% of the population, and then the Kwekwekoba, which is spoken by the 11% of the population, and the rest of the other languages, which is Oshierero, Ukwangali, Kiriku, and then the Afrikaans, etc., which are spoken by 9% of the population. These languages, Afrikaans is not endangered for the way, but these indigenous languages that are spoken by the majority of the indigenous people, they do not have current and comprehensive dictionaries. Now, these current and comprehensive dictionaries are supposed to develop in the same line with the English languages. And what the people are doing is, rather than to develop the dictionaries, they use the English word and they change the English word in the local language. Like, for example, if you say, take Oshindonga, for offside, they would say, for example, offside da. And for example, when they say offside da, then eventually it becomes part of the usage in the Oshiwambo language. And the language is slowly but surely changing into English. So these are the things that we want to prevent. We want the Namibian government and the Ministry of Education in particular to open what we call a language development institute.
Yeah.
And this language development institute should fight for the development of the indigenous languages so that the vocabulary and the terminology of the indigenous languages develop, and so the people should use the indigenous languages more often.
In efforts to save our languages and preserve them, you will be hosting a workshop on indigenous languages in Namibia. Talk to us about what this workshop will entail and who is expected to attend.
Okay, well, what we have done is we have done community consultations with the support of the Deutsche Welle through the European Union, funded by European Union. We have held community dialogues in several regions. We have met the San people. We have met people in Marienthal. We have met some people in several areas, towns, main centers of Namibia. And we had great discussions. So next week, Friday, we are going to hold a validation meeting of what we have found. And this validation meeting is inviting experts and people that are knowledgeable about the indigenous languages in Namibia. This will include all the indigenous African languages. And these people will give us advice on what needs to come in the policy statement. We have several points, approximately 10 or 20 points, that we have picked up that we want to make as policy recommendations to the Ministry of Education. And these policy points will be scrutinized by these people.
Yeah.
They will add what they need to add. What we do not know is that once we are going to suggest it to the ministry, whether it will be in the form of a board, or whether we will have an institute, or whether we will have a language development institute in Namibia. So these are the things that we are currently not sure of. And the meeting that we are going to hold on Friday will inform what direction we are going to take with the ministry. We already had discussions with the National Commission of UNESCO and NATCOM, as well as the previous Ministry of Higher Education. We did not yet meet the management of the Ministry of Basic Education, but once we are done with the validation meeting, we will have a committee that will engage the Ministry of Basic Education in a discussion.
You did mention that the workshop will be held on Friday. Just briefly, where will the workshop be held? And lastly, is it open to the public to attend?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not open to the public, but we have invited several people, experts, and people. We have got the Organization of Indigenous Minority Youth Organization. We have got experts that we have picked from different indigenous languages. The main ones, especially the indigenous African languages. We are going to invite somebody from RCA. RCA is the Afrikaans Taal en Kultuurvereniging. That's an organization that actually developed the Afrikaans language since the beginning of the century. And we want to have some lessons from them and some recommendations that we can make in the policy. We also want to invite people from the ministry to come and make a comment or to participate in this validation meeting. This meeting is planned to be held at the Nantu head office in Katutura, in the boardroom there.
Oh, okay.